to yet another edition of the Lightbridge Instagram Live. My name is Jacob Ballinger. I'm the founder of former Gaffer, and now we're here since the pandemic, once a month, talking about the most important thing in the world. Of course, we're talking about lighting, right? So here we go. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. This episode today is a special one. It's a different one than usually. It's about how we can support you, because that's at the end of the day what it's all about. That was my job as a gaffer, to support the DP, and obviously now as a company, we're here to support your vision, what you want to do out there in life. So we asked the question, what should we be talking about? What's out there that we need to solve? So of course, we have a few subjects here that came up. Thank you so much for sharing with us what you want to know, how we can help you. So of course, this is live for a reason. The reason is so you can just come in and say, hey, Jacob, what about this, right? I'm not the genius of the world. I'm not Albert Einstein. I'm just a gaffer, but I'll do my best to answer all the questions from 20 years of experience with you. So I'll jump right in there to the first question, which is how can we do Lightbridge on a budget? What's the possibility to say, hey, can I build this stuff myself? I can't afford it. I'm not a business. I don't buy this stuff. How can I build this myself? So let's talk about this. So this is a little bit of a complicated topic because, everything reflects and everything bounces. So actually, why even use the Lightbridge, if everything reflects and bounces? Let me jump back and let's start explaining what Lightbridge and what the CRLS, the precision reflectors, are really good at. They're there to create really natural light. Oh, my favorite new topic. We're definitely going to talk about Godox today. We've been honored with yet another copycat. It's the most thrilling thing for me because, just a small gaffer from Austria with my DP coming up with stuff, and suddenly we got Godox excited. So that means my most important mission, why I started Lightbridge, is not to sell reflectors. My most important vision is to share the importance of light. So that's what we do. We come up with new concepts, we do different things, and that's the reason we did the reflectors, to create a really natural looking light with an easier workflow and everything that comes with it, with all the bells and whistles. So seeing Godox now out there is just yet another proof how important it is what we're doing. And and that's about all I want to say about an amazing Chinese manufacturer. If any specific questions come up, of course I'll answer them, but it's really new right now, so we'll see what comes up from the next stage. So let's go back to the most important thing, talking about really natural looking light. So here's the thing. I got this little setup. We're not going to do a lot of setups today, but I got a window back there, and we're just going to push in with the C100. We're going to push in some beautiful warm light. I'm going to turn off the vortex in the front, and this is just giving us a light from the back. But you see what's happening? The light's actually on the back of the wall, and it's on the floor. But if you look at my face, I don't have any direct light. All the light I'm actually getting is here from the floor. So all of a sudden, even if we're lighting into a room, the most important reflector in the room is the floor. And it's not Lightbridge, and it's nothing else. It's just a beautiful, great gray floor that's bouncing back some light and giving us a feeling. So that raises the question, right? Well, how does this work? We always are told we need to get gear, and we have to have trucks, and we have to have all this stuff to do great movies. And all of a sudden I'm saying, don't worry about it, just take a floor. So that is basically true. And the idea behind what we did with the CRLS precision reflectors was to say, how can we mimic natural daylight? Because just think about it, for example, sunlight coming into a room. There is absolutely no reason to set up a fill light. Because, why? Of course, the room's filled with light. And all of a sudden, everything starts to come into place. So I'd like to look at this. I brought my trusted flip chart with me, that we can have a look at this. So here we go. If we look at a room, let me see where I am here. Okay, so let's take a box. Like we always do, we have a box, we have a room, right? And then we've got 4 walls, and we've got a back wall, and here we've got a window. So the light's coming in through the window, right? When the light comes in through the window, like a sunlight, for example, let's say like before it falls on the floor, this is called a secondary light source. So as soon as the light hits the floor over here, it's going to give us some light, like sunlight. And from there what happens is this light bounces off this wall, then it goes onto the ceiling, and then it comes into the room. And lo and behold, you know what's happening? All these beautiful reflections in the room, they're creating our fill light. They're actually creating the mood in the room. And we're doing this by having a secondary light source strategically really well planned where it's going to be in the room, so the whole room starts to light up. So why doesn't this work when we just put up a light source in front of a window? Because it works with the sun. Well, the reason obviously is because the sun is over here and our planet is way over here. So by the time the sun travels over here, the brightness when it hits Earth is going to be exactly the same when it leaves Earth. That means no matter if you're in Copenhagen, Vienna, Los Angeles, New York, Paris, wherever you are, where the sun's up, depending on how how the Earth is turning, you're going to have sunlight, and it's going to be the same exposure level. Putting up a light source doesn't work like this, right? Because the light source is here. Let me just do a light source, and it's going to be emitting light, right? And this is where we come back, without wanting to talk about physics, we talk about a fall off. The light source is much brighter here than it is over here. Of course, there's a fall off. Sun has the same thing, it's same physics. It just, by the time it hits the Earth, you don't really see it anymore. And that's actually the reason why this works. So now when we come, 8 seconds to travel, it's damn fast. Almost as fast as, I'm not gonna go there. So when we do this, when the light travels into the room, it bounces around, creates this light. So it took me a long time to actually learn, when we look at this, that when we set up a light source here, it still doesn't look natural, even if it's doing the same thing like the moon, like the sunlight. Why is that? The reason is because we're told, right, in film school, wherever, inverse square law, use your light meter, go towards the light source, then go away. So we're always focusing on this damn light source over here. But what we're not focusing on is something that's even more important than this light source, is how this light is traveling. So what does that mean? That means it's not about alone how bright this light source is and how it's coming into the room. It also depends upon how bright it is when it hits here, depending how bright it is here and how bright it is here. And because there is no fall off with the sunlight, the rooms and how everything bounces around in the room falls into real natural play. That's the reason it looks so beautiful. So how can we recreate this? Because we can't go as far away as the sun. This is where Lightbridge comes into play. What we did is we said, okay, well, go over here. If we cannot, let's say this is our room, right? What we used to do is we said, well, let's put the light source so far away as possible. Oops, can I go over here? Let's put the light source all the way over here and then light into the room. Obviously, this is going to be on a crane, on a cherry picker. It's really hard to be able to move this. So the light comes in and it's going to be that. But there's another solution. And that's actually the cool thing that Christian Berger, the DP I was working with, came up with. He just said, well, you know what, Jacob? If we can't put the light source far enough away, because here's the wall, let's put a reflector here. And let's put the light source all the way down here. Because all of a sudden, the light is traveling up, and now it's going into the room. Virtually, it feels like the light source is way up here, like sunlight would be coming in. But actually, it's only virtually, because it's like looking to the mirror. You see yourself, but you look like you're behind a wall. Same thing like with the light source. So that's the reason, by getting more distance, by using a reflector, you get the chance to mimic how far light is away, and you get a chance to mimic natural light. And that's the reason when you use a reflector, and you light with it with a precision reflector, and you light inside a room, it bounces off the floor, it bounces off the walls, everything's going to be more in harmony and more in place, meaning you don't have to set up all the fill light, you need less gear, all the stuff we always talk about. So that's basically what it's about. And that's the reason it's important to use reflectors. Thank you so much. It's so important to use the reflectors because they give you a chance to have real easy control, close to set, but it feels far away. So that's the awesome thing. And that's basically it when it comes about to say, why would I use a reflector? Because we're always used to say reflectors, well, it's a little bounce board down here, right? Well, I'll be really honest with you. Do not buy Lightbridge if you need a little bounce board in the face, because that you can get for a few dollars, a few euros by using a white board or even just using, a white piece of paper, and it's going to do the job. So what's the difference when we're using the precision reflectors? Okay, I'll definitely go into this. But what about the concept closer light, the softer it is? I'll finish this. I'll come back to this. This is a really important question. Before I forget it. So we have to talk about softer is closer. Sorry, I just have to take notes. Closer. Okay, there we go. So with the precision reflectors, and that's the difference to all the other standard bounce boards out there, is if you have a surface, I'll just be starting, we'll just be running through a lot of pages today. So if you have a surface, right, from a precision reflector, what we did is we engineered when the light comes in and how it goes out. Every bounce board, everything does that. And depending how diffused the surface is, you're gonna get more rays of light, and that's the reason it feels more diffused, right? The big difference is what we did with this aluminum sheeted coated reflectors and the way we use them, the way we created them, right? Aluminum reflectors are nothing new. That's the reason Godox can do it too, because in every light source there's an aluminum reflector. But the way we made it, the way they're produced, the way they're glued, the whole process made it possible to say, hey, you can have a single light source going under here, really hard, punchy light. And by the time it comes out, it's really diffused, similar like a softbox. But there's one huge difference. This light only goes where it needs to go. So there is no, like with a white bounce board, light going all around the place. Doesn't happen. Because it's engineered. So it gives you diffused, soft light exactly where you want it and nowhere else. So no reason to put up, like you do in direct lighting, which is great too, where you put up soft boxes on snap grids and all that stuff. When you go indirect and you use the precision reflectors, this will not happen to you. And that's the reason we've succeeded, even with the first copies coming along already a long time ago, is because to manufacture a surface to be so precise, that's where a lot of beauty and the trick lies in, to be able to use it. You can use any light source you want. You can use a Fresnel, any light source you want. It's a reflector, it's a tool. So it doesn't mean it has to be parallel, not at all. You will lose light around here, but that's maybe cool, because maybe you want to put up a white behind it. So you get a soft, beautiful, creamy wraparound light, and then you put a hard punch in the middle, or you just having a reflector against a white wall and you want to use that too. So that also makes sense. Okay, so let's dive into the topic of saying the closer light source comes, the softer it is. So here's a huge one. And here's the main thing about this. This is breaking news. The word soft light is really bad. It is so unprecise that, like a lot of words we have in the lighting industry. Because what is soft light? Soft light, am I in here? Soft light is a combination. You can't read this, okay? I see it's mirrored. I can't write mirrored. So this means soft light, right? So it's like a cloud. And the soft light contains of two things. It contains of the amount of diffusion. Let's call this diffusion because everything is mirrored. How light bounces back. But it also includes how big a surface is. So size totally matters. How is this? Just think about you're the actor, you're the actress. You're sitting in front of the camera and you're looking in. The closer you bring that white, the more your second eye is going to see it. If I'm over here, it's just like from over here, right? But if I bring it in closer, your second eye sees it. So that means the light's wrapping around. What does wrapping around mean? Wrapping around means you have a face, the light is first only hitting over here, but the more the light source covers the face, the more it's going to come to the second size of the face. So that means the further you put this light source away, the harder it's going to get, because you're just going to reach one side of the face and the further you go away. You can test this real simple. Just take a bounce board 4x4, come really close to the face, it's going to feel super soft. Take that thing away a few meters into the background, suddenly you're going to get hard shadows. So size matters, and the closer you come, the softer it looks. Absolutely correct. But, and here's the big but, this is only true for primary light sources. So this means this system will work fantastic when you use an amazing DOP choice snap grid, because you're going to have a light source, you're going to have your snap grid on there with your cloth, you're going to bring it in closer into the face, and it's going to feel softer because you're coming closer. This is a primary light source. Your primary light source means that here is a light, here is a person, and you are lighting directly. That's what it is. So what's the difference to the reflectors, and why does it not get softer when you come closer on a harder diffusion? When you use a softer diffusion, you're going to feel the wraparound too, and it's going to work. So let me see where I find place here. When you have a harder reflector, here's a reflector. Here's your light source. You're lighting into the reflector. You're bouncing the light, right? You're reflecting it. Bouncing is it's going all over the place. Bouncing is like the floor we looked at. This is precision reflecting. So virtually, this light source is now all of a sudden, let me get a great color. I only have brown, I'm sorry. Suddenly this light source virtually is up here, because it feels like the light is behind the reflector. Like when you look in the morning into the mirror when you're brushing your teeth, the same thing. So when you bring this mirror closer, the light source stays where it is. It doesn't come closer with you, because there's a distance between the light source and the reflector. And that's the reason it stays as hard. This is with 100% mirror. This is with diff 0. Our diff 0, color code gray. This will happen. The softer, the more diffused the surface gets, the more diffused the surface gets, the more this will mimic a direct light source. So diffusion 4 is going to feel like, even if you bounce it, it's almost going to feel like a direct lighting. That's the reason when you bring diff 4 from us close, it's going to get softer, because it's wrapping around. But you have this gradation, right? Because we have these 5 reflectors. So we go from diff 0 all the way to diff 4 super wide. So in between here, we've got beautiful 3 stages, so it's really easy and intuitive to control, and it gives you actually a chance to decide what you want to do. So it gives you that choice. It's like when taking a paintbrush. It's like when you take a new camera into your hand, and you're trying to figure it out. I really recommend the same thing for our reflectors. Play around with it. Test it, because having diffused light with no spill means when you tilt it and pan it, you can really decide how soft the soft light should be. Should it be up here, like here on my bald head, or should it just be down here on a dark piece of clothes? So that's the important thing when you're panning around the reflectors, and where it gives you these different kinds of moves. So that's the main thing, and the difference between direct lighting and indirect lighting, and why soft direct light does become softer. Or you use a very diffused surface, and then you'll have the same effect, like with a butterfly or so, or like with our reflectors, like diff 3 already, it's going to get, you're really going to feel it when you come closer, and it's going to get softer. If with our reflectors, you want to get softer, and you say, look, I really love the diffusion too, but I need more wraparound. There are tricks to do this. One thing is the choice of your light source. If you use a sky panel into it, or a Nova, or whatever light source you want to use. If you want to test the products and do reviews, we'd be more than happy to help out. Please just reach out to Dani, D-A-N-I, at thelightbridge.com. Dani handles the social media, and if you just hit her on Instagram and say, hey, I'd like to do a test, here's what we do, love it, because we love feedback. I tell you, that's the thing that keeps us pumping every day to improve the products. Okay, so that's that. Coming back, I hope this answers the question about when you get closer with a real mirror, or with diffusion 0 or diffusion 1 or diffusion 2, it doesn't feel that much softer. When you want to get softer, 2 ways. One thing is what goes in comes out. If you put a hard light source into a reflector, you're going to get hard light plus the level of diffusion back. If you use a soft light, sky panel, Nova, whatever one you want to use, you're going to get soft light, diffused light into the reflector, and you're going to get more diffused out. So it's going to feel a little bit more rapid. You'll feel it when you look into the reflector. It feels like the soft, big thing that's being reflected. Other thing is, go bigger in size. Again, just take a second reflector next to it, and then you'll have more surface, and you get a bigger surface, it's going to wrap around. What's really cool is with the reflectors, you can combine them. You can do diffusion 2, and then just add a diffusion 4, or put a white behind it, and then you start kind of play around with it. The main thing is, it seems at first that it takes a little bit more time. The reality is, everything new takes more time. When we have to learn something, it takes time. The benefit is when we've learned something, and we're not kids anymore that are learning how to eat ice cream, doesn't run down our hands. As soon as you know how to do it, it's really simple and it's really fast. So it's the same thing. With the reflectors. So as soon as you get the hand of it, it's like really saying, like Laszlo, a co-founder of the company, also Gaffer, was doing a show, Shadow and Bone, and he was going between 2 DPs, one using the reflectors, the other one's not. and was saying it was so hard to go back to traditional lighting. As soon as you get the hang of it, you know how to use it, it becomes so much faster, more intuitive. So like with everything new, I can really just recommend learning is the key to greatness. Put it out there like that. Okay, I hope that answers the question. I'll go back to the initial one that we had is how can I now do this on a budget if I can't afford Lightbridge? So here's the thing, a real mirror, use a real mirror. You'll have a little bit less output, take care of the color hues like when you use an IKEA mirror. It does change a little bit, but on the other hand, it gives you really precise, perfect beam angle if that's what you want. If you want to go softer, you can just use the standard gels, the standard Roscoes, everything that's out there, and make it work too. It is a reflector. It's going to do something like that. The real difference to our stuff is it's dependable. So a diffusion 2 is always going to be a diffusion 2. And as soon as you start to go into DIY, I did that for all, my whole beginning years. I had my own little reflector kit, and I know exactly which one works. And I told everybody, really take care of it because I know what it does. And when it broke, I had to build a new one. I was like, okay, I'll start over again. Let's see what it does. But DIY-wise, look, just get some foam core, smack some silver on it, some gold, whatever colors you love. There's a lot of stuff out there in the decoration market. Just go into an art store, and you'll see so many different colors and reflectors and stuff you can use. I saw an amazing one in Japan. Japanese, it's just, it's just amazing, their mastery in craft. They made flower patterns out of glass and put it on there to get this beautiful checkers and stuff. So you can go crazy in DIY, and I love it. And everything we do, and with all the developments we do, it's always the same. You start with DIY, you test, you see what works, and then you start to improve, and then you see, oh, if I would have that would work. And when you get to that stage, and this is a huge shout out, when you get to the stage of DIY, we have the feeling, I'm on to something. This is something that's interesting. But now I'm at a stage where actually I would need to start manufacturing. I would need to start doing serious prototyping. I don't know how to do that. Reach out to us. As we said, we're here to support. We're constantly working on new products with DPs. We're launching a big product when the strike's over that was just same thing. A DP came to us and said, look, Jacob, how can we do this? Can you build this for me? And we did it. And the same thing with some other colleagues as well that we're working on right now. So we're really huge on that. And if you want round reflectors, if you want star reflectors, whatever it takes to get your job done, we're here to support you. And that's, I think, the main message I want to put out there, because that's what basically drives me. So that was one question. The other one is how can I light a green screen setup with CRLS? I picked it because it's an interesting one. Why? Because it doesn't matter if it's green or blue screen, or if you're just trying to wash a wall really beautifully and even with light, right? So here's a trick. The trick is even lighting, of course, has a lot to do with distance. So let's say here's the wall, here's the person standing, and now we want to say we need a really even light from here to here, right? So usually you try to put, washers of light up here, and then they're going to get bounced back, so you have to take the light away again from the bottom. And then it just becomes a whole thing of how far can I get the person away so I can get this evenly lit. Another way that usually is done is I'm doing a top view now. Here's the wall, here's the person. You cross light. You put a Fresnel here. You light it in spot to here. You put a Fresnel here, and you light in spot to here. And now you flood it until you've reached a nice angle. And now you're going to get a super spread of light. Problem is, again, how can this person move around, right? So I understand the whole thing of saying, is there ways that I can do less gear and get my wall evenly lit? So here's the trick. Sure, use reflectors. Usually what we did is light source behind the green or just above. And here you're going to use two reflectors. One softer one and one harder one. So this light's hitting here. This light, the softer one, is going to give you the top part to here. And the harder one is going to give you the punch all the way to the bottom. And that's the way you can get a super even spread for a green screen. Super easy. I hope that explains it. It's just about a big thing, with doing something so simple, so reduced. There's a lot to do with how you can work additive, how I can put two reflectors next to each other, and what can I build from there. So it's like adding double reflectors, putting one reflector in front of the other one. So a lot of stuff that's possible that you can do with this. So this is a great trick just for lighting a wall, or you have rain outside, you need to light up evenly. So it's always about saying, what's my closer one? What's the object further away? Let me do the closer one with the softer one, the ones further away with the harder one. You won't see the light quality so much because it's further away, but that's the way you can get easily away with saying one light source, two reflectors done. And that's basically it from there. Okay, so next one. What's the difference between CRLS via scrim or softboxes? Big one. So obviously all my life I had the honor to work with softboxes. We built a lot ourselves. A lot of stuff was going on from there. I think it's kind of clear. A softbox will give you diffused light all over the place, and you can, flag it, or you can build boxes of stuff to do. A DIY thing I did a lot, which actually is kind of awesome. If you just take show card and you make a really long snoot, and you put a diffusion level in here, and you put your light source down below here, or you put a reflector in the light source down below, you're going to get super soft light coming out of here because it's going to be bouncing off this light here. And so it's going to give you this beautiful soft light just coming out the small box without having to deal with snap grids, just to get it all nicely done and stuff, right? So that's one way you can do a DIY, just to finish up the DIY. Of course, we use snap bags, we use soft boxes, we use all this stuff. So when we have light that's spilling all over the place, if you look at a snap grid from the front, here's the bag. And I'm just mentioning the DP choice because I really use the products a lot and I like them, but obviously it goes for all products, Chimera, whatever you want to use. So here's the thing, we're looking from the front of a softbox, right? You have your diffusion level back here. You've got your silver in the back bouncing around, pushing out all the light, and now you say, look, I like this, but the light's going all over the place, I need to put in a grid. So here's what happens with a grid. You put in a grid. What's going to happen is, with a grid here in the front, is you're going to control your light because it's a black grid. So this light here in the front is going to go into one direction. But there's a problem with that. If you have a light source and somebody's standing, here's your softbox, here's your person, here's the nose, and this person is standing here in front of the softbox, and we have a grid here in the front. The person looking at the grid, like I drew it here, almost feels like there is no grid, because if they're done as well as, for example, the DOP choice, it's really straight. And so you get maximum amount of level of really diffused light. There's an issue. As soon as this person starts to move to the side over here, or to the other side over here, the light becomes harder. So why does the light become harder with a grid? CRLS and other products, is there technical difference? Julia, I'll get into that in a second, gladly. So here we go. Hi, Marcel. So we have this person moving to the side, and suddenly the light gets harder here and here. Why is this? The reason is because if you think of this grid here in the front, and let's see we're moving to the side, all of a sudden you get this depth of the grid, right? You're looking in from the side to the grid. So actually, physically, what's happening here is, let's say we're looking at this now from the side. Well, I'm not so good in drawing. So we're looking at the grid from the side. You hardly have light. Only a little bit of light coming through because the rest is covered by the grid, right? We're looking at it from the side. So because you only have these small slivers of light, that's obviously hard light because it's not a big surface anymore. So that's the reason you have to take care when you use a grid. When somebody's moving to the side, it's like, oops, suddenly it doesn't look as creamy and soft anymore. There is a solution to this. Actually, Stefan taught me this, is if you take this grid and you turn it, so it's not like straight anymore, but now you go like here in a square, and suddenly like here you get diamonds. So when you move to the side over here, these diamonds are going to give you more light, even if it's going in like this. So that's a great quick fix when you have a great rabbit ear and you just can turn it. So to get a little bit more light on the side. Obviously, if you're bagged up into the corner and to the top, that won't work. So what's the biggest difference to CRLS here? The biggest difference is, and I think that's where really the quality shines of the reflectors is, not in the center of the light, but when you move to the side, how light feathers. What does light feathering mean? I'd like to have a wider angle lens. That's very true. So when we talk about feathering, we have here a hot spot of light. So let's say this is our center. But the real magic happens, and that's where you can really check if it's a good light source, is how does it feather off into darkness? Do you have color fringes? Does the light make small weird shapes? How does it happen? Does it fall off really fast so it feels like when an actor and actress is moving out of the light, whoops, it's gone? So what we did here is, the way we engineered the surfaces is, it has a really soft feathering to the side. So what happens is, when a person, opposite to having a grid, moves to the side, to the reflector, it's going to stay as soft until the light slowly fades out. And that's the biggest difference, because when we're lighting rooms, like I showed you with the floor, people are going to stand up, going to be walking around, moving if it's in an interview. And you don't want to have the feeling, oh, the light's not nice anymore, it's moving out. So by using the precision reflectors from the Lightbridge, it really gives you the feeling, oh, it's just the light's ending, and then it comes in again. It feels really natural with the ins and the outs and how it works. So that's the biggest difference between the scrims and the soft boxes. So let's go back to our copycat team, which keeps popping up today. Julia, it's glad to answer. So for one is, I don't want to talk bad about other people and what they decide to do and what they think about us and why they think they should copy us. That's not the way I live my life. I do my stuff by playing infinite games. I want to look ahead and make really sure that what I'm doing can really help the community of lighting, and we can push the envelope of lighting. Exactly. So I'll quickly just go back to this question. So that means the longer light travels in space, it becomes more like natural light. Yeah, I mean, it's the sun, so it's going to be natural. But yes, if we take it down to Earth, the further your light source is away, the more natural it's going to feel. And by using a reflector, you can keep your light source close, so you don't need as strong as of a light source, because you're using a reflector to mimic the distance. So by using a reflector, you're doubling your distance of light. It's going to feel more natural, with less light loss, with more control, all the benefits of using the trick up your new sleeve now of using the Lightbridge CRLS precision reflectors. So, okay, so just to go back again to all my dear colleagues out there. So I'm always a person who is looking for new stuff, how we can figure out to do things easier and better. I really believe in the importance of light, and I believe light can help people. It helps mood. We can create moods with it. You know what that does to a person, depending how the mood of a room is and how it can make our audience feel with it. So that's my main focus. So with the reflectors, the focus was how can we do a really natural looking light? And I always tell everybody, and that's the reason whoever visits us at a trade show, I always say, don't look at the reflector. Look in the box, look at what the light does. So I'm always trying to focus everybody on that what counts. That's what you get paid for. You don't get paid for putting up a reflector. You get paid for an amazing shot, a beautiful light setup, right? So that's what I want everybody to look at. So for all the other people that want to look at the light sources because they see dollar signs, I'm not so interested in it. I am more interested in saying, what do I need to change in that tool that, yes, I hope all of you want to use, but what can we do with it? And especially, how can it help you? How can it support you? And not about what can I get from it. And I think that's the biggest difference, what I always see when people are, just saying, oh, this looks great, you can make money, I'll do it too. So that's my personal issue with it. On the technical side, because that was Julia was really asking about, is there are a few things that are really important when it comes to it, is about saying, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a gaffer, I'm from the set. It's for the community, it's how it can support us to push the envelope of lighting. And that does not happen by having this amazing new tool where everybody says your life will change, because it doesn't. Why? Because culture beats products for breakfast. Culture beats products for breakfast. What does that mean? Your culture on set, your workflow on set is the main thing why something's going to look good or not, because it's going to determine how much time you have, how much possibilities you have to change something because you don't like it, how much chance you have the possibility to say, director says, I want a different, you can say, sure. That's culture. That's how you set up lights. That's how you bring stuff to set. That's which stands you use, which bags you use, which lights you use, which reflectors you use. That's what it's about. So our main focus was, and that's something interesting enough, people who want to make money with reflectors will just look at the reflectors. But what we're looking at is the workflow. What do we have to do along the way so you end up in a position where you look good and where you can create amazing things? So that's what we're doing. So technically that means if you look at your bags, if you look at the sleeves, if you look how the stuff's sewn, how we produce, with the stuff in Italy, or how our reflectors are glued. Because then here's another thing, right? Our reflectors are made reflector, and the back there's a speed rail. So why do we have this compound? You see this black on the side, and then you see a reflector on the top. The reason we did this is I don't want you to think about which light source you use. If you want to use 18K and full spot into it, go ahead. You'll get amazing results. If you want to use a candle into it, go ahead. It's going to work great. How to introduce and change color through a CRLS? Could you please rephrase that sentence? I'm not sure if I understand it. That'd be amazing. Thank you. So the thing is, I just have to remember my thought now. So the thing is, everything we do, the way stuff is glued, the way stuff is made, it makes a difference. Yes, we do have stuff in Dubai. Please God, there's a big red, a new dealer there, and I'm blanking on the words. Yes, we have a dealership in Dubai, and I'll think of the name in a second. I'm on the other side of the brain right now. So what that means is that when you put a C-wheel in and you see how beautiful it rolls, how it tightens, it's about speed. Why do we do this? Not because it looks cool, it's because I know how it's going to be when you're standing on an Apple box in a dark room at 3 a.m. in the morning and the DP says you got to change this really fast. This has to go like this. And that's what we focus on. So a big thing about the technical differences, you will see it in details. How the C-wheel is made, like we have these gliding plastics inside. We've got the wedges that break at 0.5 kilonewton, so nobody hurts each other. We've got rigging wedges, so they won't break, but of course, you got to take more care. We have, the sleeves, so you can keep them better protected, the way our bags are made. All the way to the main point we were talking before, the feathering of the light, the spill light free. The thing is, it's crazy. When you have a light source really far away going to a reflector, it is like a magnifying glass because you're going to be pushing that light a few hundred yards down the street and you're going to see every little problem there is. And so that's the main thing. So we have to make sure they're crystal perfectly glued and put on there. And you won't see it with your free eye. You'll see it when you put it into the light and you'll really feel it on set. And I think that's the main thing is everything we do is for an easier workflow for you to create better lighting. And from there on, all these steps go ahead. So it's to go back to technical stuff, look at the bags, look at the sleeves, look at the C-wheels, look at the reflectors are glued, look how we decided which reflectors and how we manufacture them, and look at how our support is in the back end to really make sure we can support you all the way. So it's all this little stuff that goes along the way that makes all the differences. I hope, Julia, that answers your question somehow. And that way, I've got 2 questions in here. I'll go look. If I have a low budget, can I only afford one product? Which one should I get? If you have a low budget and you can afford one product, which one should I get? It depends how low this project is. But I would say don't get a product. If you don't have any budget, spend all your money figuring out where you're going to shoot at what time of day you're going to shoot. And it's going to look amazing. And that's much better time invested than buying a reflector, not canning afford to get the right lights, to get the right crew to make it work. So that's the main thing. Our reflectors only make sense there. It's really professional gear. You got to have the crew, you got to have the trucks, you got to have the whole thing to make it work. Yes, it works on documentaries for small stuff too, but again, there it's really important to make sure you've got all the bells and whistles around it. You need great light sources because 100% light gets reflected, only 3% light loss, but 100% color. So you got to have good light sources to make it work, unless you want to use sodium vapors on the streets and stuff. So if you don't have any budget, don't think a product will solve it for you. And I think that's the main advice I can give you. The less you set up, the more time you can spend doing what you're actually doing. That makes sense. Best distance the light reaches from the CRLS series, if any explanation. I'm not sure if I understand correctly, but basically the distance from the light source to the reflector is like a Fresnel. The closer you get, the more you flood. The further you go away, the more you spot. I always try to do about 6 feet just to give it a start. Unless you want to really make a long throw, then you use like a spotlight mount, then you can go further away. And the rest goes in from there. I was talking earlier about really natural looking light. Tina just joined. Hi, Tina. Look at her work. If you want to look at how great natural light looks, that's the main resource to go to. Make it work. How do you use CRLS in terms of colors? Well, color the light source, ideally. If you're outside using the sun, you can put a gel onto the reflector, but you have to take care of the wrinkles. But outside, who cares, right? So you can do that for sure too. But in the real most important thing about it is that it has 100% color consistency. So all the light that goes in comes out. What does that mean? You put the light into sodium vapor, and it's going to be exactly that color. And the crazy thing is, what I found is, even if you use a harder reflector and the sodium vapor, say big size, whatever, feels softer and it feels harder with the reflector, you will not notice the difference. And the reason is that we all are triggered, that seems how our bodies, our brains work, to color. So if the color is 100% consistency, you won't see the difference, which is one of the amazing things why we took so much care in the color coding of the whole thing. Thanks, Julia. Yeah, so that's I think I'd say is the main thing out there when it comes to the color. What mistakes do we make while making videos? I mean, you know, at different levels, you're going to make different mistakes. I think we learn only from mistakes, really. So we have to make mistakes. We have to be in positions where we don't look stupid, but we have a chance to correct something, to look at something. I think the main thing is really make sure you have enough, figure out a system how you're shooting, that you have enough time to figure out what you want to do. And if we don't have enough time and we have to go fast, then we start making mistakes. And I think that's the main problem with it. Let's see if anything else came up there. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a really versatile tool. As soon as you get used to it, it's great. How does the reflector and the solid bounce make the difference? I just explained that before. The difference is a solid bounce will give you, like almost 180 degree spill. The reflectors will give you the similar or same diffusion level, but no spill. It will only go into one direction. So if you have a reflector over here, it's giving you really soft light just to here. And that is the game changer. That's the big difference when using the CRLS in the reflectors, making it work. If we used color lights, how is CRLS going to affect the intensity of colors or color temperature? See, here's the main thing. I can't point it out enough well. This is a professional gear reflector. It is not some cheap whimsy thing. It is 100% color accurate. So exactly the color that goes in is going to come out. And there's going to be no change to this. That is really important. There's only 3% light loss. So you can use not as strong lights. You can put the reflector really far away. You're still going to get incredible amount of light coming out of this. Yeah, the Diff 2 is a workhorse. We use it a lot through windows. The great thing also about Diffusion 2 is you won't have any issues with wind outside like you have with real mirrors, because Diffusion 1 and 0 is going to have similar issues. You're going to feel a little bit of shaking in the wind. So that's definitely something that's out there. And so Diffusion 2 is going to take care of it. Total workhorse. You want to go softer, Diffusion 3, harder, Diffusion 1. So it's exactly in the middle of the range. I also can recommend, going back to the budget thing, you can buy a single reflector and get a bag, or just put it in the sleeve, it's protected, put it into your bags or other gear, and then you can start to add on to your gear, and you can start to grow from there too. Especially in the beginning, it's like favors. What do I like? What don't I like? So that's the reason I totally agree with the Diffusion 2. That's a great way to start out with. I'll let you know about the Dubai dealer. Could I ask you a huge favor? Because I'm really more in the lighting side of things. Could you just hit us on Instagram? Just put in there the Dubai dealer. It would be amazing. And then I'll give you the correct contact, because they're just receiving their first packages. And so just to make sure. Yeah, and test. That's the most important thing. Go to the rental houses. A lot of them have them already. Test them out. Don't get worried if they have scratches on them and stuff. That's just the process of the aging. Don't worry too much about it. Look at the quality of the light. Don't look at the product. I think that's the main takeaway from there. You can test them in action. Oh, great. Brilliant. Thanks so much for this answer. Do we have discount programs for film schools? Of course. Just reach out to sales@lightbridge.com. We support, we've got, depending on where you are, within Europe, we ship kits free of charge that you can use on your programs. I think it's so important to support schools, support anybody who wants to push the envelope of lighting. Anybody, at 3 a.m. in the morning and it's raining and everybody's tired, you still think, I'll do this little tweak. I want to make this better. I can make this better. Those are the people we're there for, to improve lighting. Let's go down here, see if there's something more going on. Thanks so much for all the great feedback. How can I set a highlight in a short room? Oh, I love this question. Okay, so here, that's that great one. Film program is in New York State. Go to Lux Lighting. Talk with the guys from Lux Lighting. See if they can help you. Create highlights. So let's go back to our room. So here's our room. And now we say, actually we need a window up here, but we don't have a window up there. So what you do is you place a reflector all the way up on the ceiling, as high as you can outside the frame. You place your light source on the other end of the room where there's no issue. Let's say you take your light source over here. Daylight, boom, 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 and it comes in. And then it's going to reflect down onto the room. But you know what's actually happening? This distance from the light source to the reflector, actually your light source feels like it's all the way up here and it's coming down because you're reflecting the light. So you can have a person standing here and it's not going to be super bright on the face and really dark at the bottom because you just placed a really thin Lightbridge precision reflector up there. So that's a great one to make the rooms. Yeah. Will the 50-50 Couture bag be available separately? Yes, everything, look, as I said, we're really here to support. Any wishes you have, everything can get separately, then you can get the reflectors, all easy and no worries. This is going fast the time of day. I didn't even get halfway through those questions I have on here. CRLS in combination with moving heads. I think it's fantastic. Robe just brought out some new ones. If you don't have any sound issues, I hear there's also manufacturers working on sound-proof moving heads. There's a hell of a lot of light on a small spot, right? So it's really great. And you can create a great Poor Man's process. So if you have a reflector here, this works best with diffusion number 3. And you place your moving head really close. Let me do this in a different color again. All the way over here. And the moving head is panned over here. This light source is going to feel like it's over here, right? Now if you pan your moving head to the other side, your light source feels like it's over here. And if you do this movement and the light comes back to this space, and the light comes over here to this space, you already see what's happening, right? Push this over a little bit. This means the light coming from here to the light coming over here, the shadow's changing. So it's an amazing way to doing really slow motion, perfect moving light in a studio without moving a lot of gear around. So that works really well. I did this on a feature film a couple of years ago in an airplane. Look, I got this question, how practical are cine reflectors in documentaries? The cine reflectors, precision reflectors as we're calling them now, because it's really about precision and how you use it, is all about, creating perfect light in one direction. So when we have precision reflectors in documentaries, it's the same thing. And the reflectors actually came from documentary. Christian Berger, the DP, he documented there was a big part of his life before he moved into features. So the whole idea of how fast can it be, my room needs to be free. I can't have any glare in the person's face I'm interviewing. So it works really great with the same concept again too. A white reflector in front, you get a beautiful light, you get some push, you can put a little bit down, you start sculpting the face, the person, works great. Thanks so much for the feedback. Yeah, it works great on docs. Yeah, and then we got this huge question that is a little bit tricky for me to talk about. Oh, we got another one. Can you give a good way to do poor man's process on low budget using a few lights and reflectors? If you don't have a moving head, that's just out of budget because of all the dimming and all the controls you need with it. You can turn reflectors. You can put more next to each other and then pan a standard light through it. That works great. So any kind of movement, poor man's process depends how fast the car needs to look like and how much it needs to be in sync with the environment. But then basically giving this feeling of being further away than like shooting in a small studio works great with the reflectors. And you just can pan them too if you want to do that. So that works as well, if that helps. So everything that mimics distance gives you a feeling like it's not in the studio, which obviously is a good thing. So that kind of makes sense. Yeah, this hour went by so fast. I cannot believe it. Thank you so much all for all the questions. Anything comes up, just hit us on Instagram. Write us if you've got questions, if you've got requests, if something's bugging you. Especially love to hear about that. Can you talk about any interesting effects and can be cheap as cascading several reflectors? I really love combining hards and softs because it still feels like one light source, but it gives you so much more, complexity in the light, in faces, people moving. It depends what you're doing for. And by using a lot of small reflectors, like even harder ones, you can do like trees, just have a light source down below on the C-stand, and then just mount multiple grip heads on the top with small reflectors. And then you can do like really trees and paint around with them, the different effects. That works great. Also like for tabletop work and stuff. Feels like I'm back in school. I hope not. I didn't like school, but it's I learned on set. But thanks so much, man. Any lights polarizing the reflectors? No, actually not. No, I haven't seen any significant things going on. It's more like, when you're shooting through cars and using the polarization. No, the light goes through. But it's a good question. We never tested it in the lab, but I've never seen anything on set. And once again, it's, we developed it on set for a set. How can we use Lightbridge reflectors for creating a moonlight for a large studio set? Same thing. Go really far away with the light source. Like if this is the room from the top, let me see, where am I here? Here's the studio and you're shooting in here, place one reflector here. I even did once a reflector here and a light source here, and I went all the way around to be like sunlight in space. But the same thing with moonlight too. You can put it really far away. And by defining the diffusion levels, it's a great way because, moonlight isn't always hard. There's also clouds and it looks different. So that's an easy way to do it. Works great, for moonlight, obviously. I hope that answers the question, as simple as it is. Otherwise, just hit me again. Hello from Lebanon. Hello from Vienna. I'll go into, we only got like 7 minutes left. This was fun. I'll jump down to the final question I have here on the list. What's next for Lightbridge? We're bringing out new kits, new gear, still around the world of the reflectors for right now. As I mentioned earlier, it's not about reflectors with Lightbridge. It's about how can we push the envelope of light for storytelling. How can we push? I'm thinking of going to Camera Image. I'm not sure yet. Let's see how this strike thing goes on. But do let us know if you go. It would be awesome to meet. So what we're doing is we're always trying to talk with a lot of people, see what we're doing. So we're going to bring out new kits, bigger kits for bigger jobs. We're also going to do some really small stuff. We're doing some work for photography because a lot of photographers have been contacting us. So we're definitely going to do some new gear, exciting stuff for that too. But everything we do, once again, it's not about releasing a new product. It's about thinking differently how we can work with light to push the envelope of lighting so we can create even stronger moods, more precise moods. And I think that's the most important thing we can do it there. And obviously talking to all of you is amazing. And if you have any questions, just hit us and we're there. I think that's all we have for today. I thank you so much all for joining in and looking in. I hope you all are health and safety. All of you are healthy and it's safe, and you're working and you're doing some great stuff on the jobs. We love seeing stuff you're doing on jobs. So that's really important because I think everything we can create is most important. Oh, here comes another one. How to take care of reflectors if they get dull and spots. Okay, so here's the thing. It's a precision reflector, right? So it's actually an optical system. And yes, they look shiny and beautiful on the first day, and they will not look like this after a couple of weeks and months on set. I do recommend using the sleeve as long as possible, not to touch them. I do recommend cleaning them down, taking off the fingerprints. Don't press too hard. When they get dull, usually somebody's trying to clean them too hard. We provide the cleaning kits with it, plus the instructions. If they get dull because you had them in rainwater, for example, rain and aluminum doesn't like each other, salt water, if it's raining near the ocean, really just pour some water over it and wipe them down, and don't store them wet, obviously, in the sleeves. Dry them first like you would any rag, and then you can have a long life from them. Don't get too nervous about if they get scratches. It's all good. Look at the light quality, just push a light into it, look at it on the wall, and if it's this perfect, beautiful rectangle, and depending on diffusion level it's spreading out, it's going to be good. And if you're from a rental, do sign on to a rental support system. We offer very, competitive prices on spare reflectors, so everybody, can take them out on set and don't feel bad about if something happens. And we offer with them posters, so everybody can hang up the posters to say, hey, this is good, it's not good. And anything you can summarize in 5 minutes. Oh, wow. I can summarize by saying this video is being recorded and you can watch it afterwards live on Instagram. I have no clue what I talked about the last hour. No, joking. But thanks so much for asking. And I hope this is helpful. And that's great. So to all of you out there, I wish you all the best. Have a great shooting day. And I'll see you again next month in about 4 weeks. It depends on our schedules, but we'll post it again when it comes up. Hit us with questions and we'll come back to you. We're here to support you. Have a great shooting day and have a great evening. Bye.